Hi, everybody. I'm Connie Joe with Soul Navigation, and today I want to talk about moon sign compatibility. So, we all have a moon sign. I hope you know what your moon sign is. Of course, it's different for everyone, but usually the moon sign is the first thing we look for after we realize that we're more than our sun sign. So, what does the moon say about us? What does the moon do? The moon is our emotional makeup. The moon is our primal instincts. The moon is what nurtures us, the patterns that nurtures us. The moon is what makes us comfortable, where that space we go to that makes us comfortable. That's all part of the moon. It also holds all the memories to our past lives, to this life. The moon basically nurtures us, it's our emotions, and the compatibility between moon signs is lovely and different than between the sun or other planets because it's how you emotionally mesh with someone. So, we're going to go over that compatibility, go through every sign today. Look at the compatibility not only with your romantic partner, but also look at your parents, your children, your friends, your coworkers. That one's important because it'll be different for everybody. So let's get started with the sign of Aries. So, what are some of the key words if we have the moon in Aries? Impulsive, passion, spontaneous. They crave adventure. They're fearless. The sign of Aries is the first sign, of course, but they also like to be first. This sign doesn't react or act slowly, even emotionally. And that's what we're talking about. It's pretty spontaneous, it's pretty fast, it's pretty passionate. So the signs that match this fire sign the most, this cardinal fire sign, the two that probably get along best or understand the Aries moon the best would be the other two fire signs, which are Leo and Sagittarius. The moon signs, when they're in fire, they're quick. They're quick in their emotions. For instance, Aries may be quick to anger, but they're also quick to forgive. And when the other fire signs of Leo and Sagittarius come together with an Aries moon sign, there can be a lot of passion involved. It can be very fiery and passionate. But one thing that happens when you have two fire signs together is that they can burn out quite quickly. You definitely need the other elements involved. But the passion that comes from two fire signs, when Aries is with Leo or Aries is with Sagittarius, the brainstorming with Sagittarius, the excitement with Leo, just it can't, there's nothing better than being in the same element as your moon sign is. And so for Aries, that's going to be Leo and the Sag moon. So, what other signs get along well with the Aries moon? The two signs that are sextile from Aries. So, that would be Gemini and Aquarius, both air signs. So, air and fire mix well together. They stoke the fires, so to say. So Aries gets along really well with Gemini and Aquarius. Gemini and Aquarius bring a little bit less emotion to the table. They're not as fiery, of course, as Aries, but they seem to mesh well and get along well together. So let's go opposite. What about Libra and Aries? This one can work on some levels. Libra being a cardinal air sign, and then Aries being a cardinal fire sign, they don't exactly operate the same way at all. If this is in a romantic relationship, usually this works quite well. The emotions can mesh pretty well together. But when it comes to work relationships, maybe not so much. There's not so much agreement emotionally with Aries and Libra together in the moon signs. On other levels, of course, if you're an Aries moon and your child is a Libra moon, you start to understand their need not to be so independent, but that they like to have people around them to serve as their mirror. So these are some of the differences between Aries and Libra. Libra is more about relationships. And then Aries, it's not that they're not about relationships, but they're a very independent moon sign. Let's look at the other two moon signs with Aries, two other ones, and these are called in conjunct to Aries, meaning they're 5 signs apart. It's called a quincunx. It is a 150-degree angle. And the two signs for Aries that are quincunx are Scorpio and Virgo. Now, Scorpio has nothing in common with Aries, and neither does Virgo, because Aries is cardinal fire, Virgo's mutable earth, and then we have Scorpio is fixed water. So they really don't understand each other at all. But the funny thing is, in some relationships, particularly romantic ones, this can often work. Often there is such a fascination, especially with Aries and Scorpio, between the two moon signs, their emotional makeup. Scorpio loves that fieriness that Aries has. And I think Aries loves that mysterious withholding of emotions that Scorpio has. Now, of course, Scorpio was once ruled by Mars before Pluto was discovered. So they have that in common. But it's surprising that this can sometimes actually work, even though you wouldn't think it would. And the same goes with Virgo. They're so different, yet at the same time, it's the differences that bring them together in that very emotional way. There's always a discovery to be made when you have nothing in common with your partner's moon sign or with your coworkers or your friends or your child. Next, we're going to go to one that is a little bit difficult, and this is the square. Aries makes a square to both Capricorn, and Aries makes a square to Cancer. So these are all cardinal signs. Capricorn, cardinal earth, Cancer, cardinal water. Aries does not really emotionally see eye to eye with either of these signs. Cancer, because they're ruled by the moon, they can be a little bit more moody. Their moods can change with the moon sign as it travels. Also, they're very deeply intuitive. I'm going to stay away from the word sensitive because I don't think Cancer moons are sensitive, but not in the way that you would think. The Aries moon is very forward thinking. They're not as nostalgic. Capricorn and Cancer moons can be very nostalgic. These are two of the tougher ones for the Aries moon to get along with. And then finally, the two signs that are right beside Aries, the Taurus moon and the Pisces moon. And for an Aries, it's really hard for them to understand that mutable water or that fixed earth. They can come to an understanding. It's not like you can't be friends with someone that has a moon that's semi-sextile or next door to you. But for Aries, it's quick, it's spontaneous, and Taurus is a lot slower in their emotions. They're not as quick to make decisions. They're not as quick to jump to conclusions as Aries is. And Pisces, you don't know what you're going to get with Pisces, which way the fish are going to swim that way. So they can be very emotional or sentimental one day, and then the next day, not so much. But Aries doesn't understand these two signs as well. And it can be a very interesting match if you get an Aries with a Taurus or with a Pisces moon. So let's go to the next moon sign of Taurus. So Taurus, our fixed earth moon sign. So this is a sign of stability and security. Security really makes the Taurus moon feel comfortable. They're not quick to be emotional. They're a lot slower to show their emotions than Aries, for instance. They're practical, they're very sensual. This is a very down to earth moon sign. When we talk about, when you hear the phrase salt of the earth, this would be the Taurus moon. The Taurus moon is practical. It really doesn't like change. It's very predictable. You can pretty much predict how a Taurus moon will act or react to a situation. But although when you do finally get the bull angry, they definitely aren't afraid to show that emotion, but they're slower to react to things. So, what signs get along best with the Taurus moon? So probably we go with our earth signs, the Capricorn moon and also the Virgo moon. And they are also down to earth, slower to react to things. So these three moon signs have an affinity with each other because they're the same element of earth. Virgo and Capricorn are also practical, slower to react. Although Taurus is the one that security and stability really what that's really their comfort zone, really what makes them feel comfortable. And change for this fixed earth sign is not an option most of the time, very resistant to change. So the Taurus moon also gets along well with the Pisces moon, and it also gets along well with the Cancer moon, both water signs, and water and earth mix well together. There's an understanding of the emotions between Taurus and Cancer and Pisces, and they just mesh well and get along well together. So, what about Scorpio, the sign opposite of Taurus? Actually, I like this because we have the ruler of Scorpio, or the ancient ruler, Mars, and then we have Venus ruling Taurus. I like the opposition for these moon signs. I think that the Scorpio moon is a bit more secretive, and we'll talk about that more when we get to Scorpio. But there is this sensual understanding between the two. And both of these moon signs can be a bit possessive, and both of them are a bit resistant to change. So they actually get along better than some of the other oppositions do. Okay, so let's look at the two signs that are quincunx or 50 degrees apart. Sometimes this is called an inconjunct. For Taurus, this is going to be Sagittarius and Libra. So Sagittarius, being a fire sign, moves a lot faster. It's mutable fire. It really does not understand fixed earth. And then Libra, which is cardinal air, really doesn't understand fixed earth. But one thing that I've seen, especially between Taurus and Libra, they're both ruled by the sign of Venus. And I've seen this in many love relationships, that these moon signs actually have a better understanding of each other than you would think. Or is it their differences that bring them together? I'm not sure, but I've seen many couples that have the moon signs in Libra and Taurus that have had lifelong relationships. Sagittarius, maybe not as much. I think the Sagittarius need for adventure and a need for things to be spontaneous are a little bit difficult for the sign of Taurus to process at times because they're much slower and much more practical. And then the next door signs, Aries and Gemini. Both Aries and Gemini being next door to Taurus, they're a little bit too spontaneous and fast going, fast moving with their emotions for the Taurus moon. Remember, the most important thing for that Taurus moon is security and stability. That's what makes them feel comfortable. The signs of Aries, that's very spontaneous in their emotions, and the sign of Gemini, which we'll talk about more next, really and truly, they don't see eye to eye. They really don't have a great understanding of each other. Although I have seen relationships with these moon signs work out. All right, let's move to Gemini. So the moon sign of Gemini is really interesting because they're ruled by Mercury. So sometimes it's almost like they think their emotions. So, what makes them feel comfortable? What are their primal instincts? Communication. That's what is so important to a Gemini moon. They really want to communicate, to get their point across. They want to tell people how they feel. They might tell people how they feel more than they show people how they feel. It's a social moon sign. It's restless a little bit, but also very flexible. Gemini energy is very flexible. It's also very curious. It's a curious moon sign. They want to know how others are feeling. They want that communication. So, who do they get along best with? Let's start with the other two air signs. So, Gemini, being mutable air, actually gets along really well with Aquarius and also with Libra because they also are very social signs and they're also intelligent. They're thinkers and communicative most of the time. So, what about the opposite sign of Sagittarius? Fire and air get along pretty well together, and Sagittarius, for the most part, doesn't have a hard time telling the Gemini moon how they feel. So, actually, this opposition works pretty well. The Sagittarius moon with the Gemini moon, they actually get along together quite easily. Our sextile signs. So, we have Aries on one side, and we have Leo on the other side. And Gemini energy actually mixes really well with Leo, especially. I've seen many Gemini moon, Leo moon couples get along great. They seem to be on the same page emotionally. And I'll say more about Leo next, but they also get along well with the fire sign of Aries. So let's talk about the two signs that are in conjunct. What two moon signs in conjunct or are 150 degrees apart from Gemini? So we have Scorpio and we have Capricorn. So it's interesting because Capricorn energy, moon energy, and Gemini moon energy actually get along okay. And Capricorn's really curious about what Gemini is going to say next. And Gemini kind of likes the practical side, the ambitious side of Capricorn. And then I have seen so many couples that are Scorpio Gemini. It's incredible to me because we have this fixed water sign with this mutable air sign, yet for some reason they can't get enough of each other. And I really can't tell you what it is, but maybe they are just so different that they just never, maybe for Gemini especially, they never learn enough about Scorpio. Maybe they want to spend so much time with this Scorpio moon that they learn all of their secrets. I don't know, but the energy just seems to work, even though I can't figure it out. Okay, so the next door signs would be Taurus and Cancer, and they get along okay. The Gemini moon can pretty much emotionally get along with anyone. They're fairly emotionally intelligent. They can figure things out, being ruled by Mercury. It works okay with the Taurus moon, and it works okay with the Cancer moon, although they may be a little bit too emotional for our Gemini moon. Okay, so let's move on to the sign of Cancer. And the moon is the most comfortable in Cancer. That's its home sign. The moon loving it there. Cancer moons are sensitive, they're nurturing. They really have, most of them have a high emotional IQ and can really feel out how other moon signs are feeling. They understand the emotions. They're intuitive, they're empathetic, and they're compassionate for the most part, but they're nurturing and they want to be nurtured in return. They like that nurturing energy. Nurturing doesn't necessarily mean chicken soup or dinner on the table, or although a lot of Cancer moons love to do things like that, but it's just taking care of someone in a way that they want to be taken care of. And I'm telling you, if you can keep a Cancer moon happy, you have made a partner for life because they will stick to the person that makes them happy. They really will. Who does make the Cancer moon happy? Of course, we're going to go with our water signs, Scorpio and Pisces, all being the same element of water and intuitive and emotional themselves. When I say emotional, I mean they're not as the fire signs show their emotions in a different way. The water signs are more sensitive to their emotions. So the water signs of Pisces and Scorpio actually mesh well with the Cancer moon. And that's energy that usually works. I do want to say something about these trines of the signs being in fire, air, water, or earth. It can get a little boring because the person sharing the same element as you, and especially in a romantic relationship, sometimes the flow is too easy and you need that square energy. Speaking of square energy, what two signs square the planet, excuse me, the sign of Cancer? For one, we have Aries, and number two, we have Libra. So both of these square the sign of Cancer. And I think they can work well. That in a romantic relationship, it seems like that Libra and Cancer are a little bit more sensitive, maybe, than the Aries with Cancer. They're cardinal signs, they start things in different ways. But in a romantic relationship, yes, this can work because sometimes you need that friction in a relationship to make it interesting, right? Yes, those two signs can work with Cancer. What about Capricorn? Actually, Capricorn and Cancer energy can work quite well together, the moons working together. There is an understanding between the two. They're on the home and family work axis. If you get a Cancer moon and a Capricorn moon that are really healthy, this can be a really nice mix. Okay, so what about our inconjuncts or our quincunxes or our signs that are so different from Cancer? So we have both Sagittarius and Aquarius. Okay, so funny story. My husband is a Cancer moon and I'm a Sag moon, and his partner, his ex-partner, was an Aquarius moon. So obviously they can work together. Cancer energy, like I said, is very nurturing. And for a Sagittarius, it's so interesting. Except Sagittarius moons are very forward thinking. Cancer is very nostalgic. And it's the same with Aquarius. They're more modern or forward thinking about most things. And then you've got the nostalgia of Cancer. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to deal with when you put these signs together, but it can work, definitely. I think it's the differences that actually bring these moon signs together. And then we have our next door signs to Cancer, which are Gemini, which we've talked about. Gemini and Cancer are okay together. They can make it work, but the nurturing energy of Cancer can get on the Gemini's nerves a little bit, or Gemini wants to over communicate when Cancer wants to go to its shell. And then when you have Leo energy with Cancer, they can be a little bit dramatic for Cancer energy, although that can work too. Okay, so let's look at the sign of Leo. So our Leo moons, one of my favorite moons, they are loving for the most part. They're generous, a bit dramatic, but they're very loyal. And also the Leo moon is prideful. And like I said, maybe a bit dramatic, not like the sun sign of Leo. And I'm not calling you dramatic. I'm just saying that a Leo definitely has a flair for the creative and drama. But the Leo moon is very passionate in their emotions. They're not like Aries, they're not as spontaneous, but there's a loyalty to the fixed sign of Leo, to that moon sign. So, what signs go well with the Leo moon? We, of course, have our other two fire signs, Sagittarius and Aries. They're all three very passionate. and maybe quick and spontaneous in their emotions. I think for Leo, the most comforting part of their moon sign is loyalty and someone that'll be as generous and loving as they are. So that's what makes them comfortable, that mutual love. And it goes well with the passion of both Aries and Sagittarius. All of those mix well together. And then we have our signs that are sextile. Gemini and Leo energy mix well together, as do Libra and Leo. Now, I've seen a lot of Libra Leo mixes, and actually, they're quite lovely. Leo being ruled by the sun, Libra being ruled by Venus. Both of them, it's like this would be a couple that looks good together. And but they're emotionally they mix well together. There's an understanding from the intellectual side of Libra, and then Leo liking that drama just a bit and needing that loyalty. They find that a lot in the Libra moon. So, what about our signs that are quincunx or that are 5 signs apart? So, we're going to go with Capricorn and Pisces. And this is so interesting because Pisces and Leo actually get along pretty well together. I think that Pisces is a bit flighty for Leo. They like the stability, the loyal part there. But Pisces can be a little bit dramatic too. And their moon signs actually match up quite well. I have seen many matches also between Capricorn and the Capricorn moon and the Leo moon. And although Leo can be a bit more emotionally flashy than Capricorn, there's still an understanding with them together. Although the Leo moon maybe get a little bit bored with the practicalities of the Capricorn moon, but they still mix fairly well. Okay, and then we have our opposition, Aquarius. Actually, this is one that I'm not as fond of because Aquarian energy can sometimes be a little aloof or not as passionate. And Leo needs that passionate love, that attention. That's what makes them comfortable. I'm not as crazy about that opposition as some of the others, but of course, you can always make that work. And this all depends on the other aspects in your chart. If you would like to get a personal reading with me to look at your compatibility, it's one of my favorite things to do. And you can find me at Soul Navigation Readers. Okay, so let's move on to the sign of Virgo. Okay, before we go to Virgo, I didn't talk about the next door signs for Leo, which are Virgo and Cancer. Cancer and Leo energy are very interesting because you're looking at the sun and the moon. Although we're talking about moon signs right now, but there are lights in the solar system. The moon rules Cancer, and of course, the sun rules Leo. So this is a match that can work because Cancer will be very nurturing and loving to that Leo energy, which is what they need and what they crave. Also, with Virgo, Virgo has a very caring energy, the Virgo moon. Now, they can be a bit practical for the Leo moon. The Leo moon wants to feel their emotions, but it is also a match that can work, the Leo moon with the Virgo moon. So now let's move on to the sign of Virgo. Virgo moon is quite analytical. It's ruled by Mercury, and actually, they're really good at reading other people's emotions. But what makes them feel comfortable or their primal instincts are to have things organized, if they're a little bit of a perfectionist, but they want things organized, laid out, that they know what's going to happen next. They are mutable. They're really not afraid of change. So they want to know what's going to happen next. That's their organizational skills. And I've met many people that say, I'm a Virgo and I'm not neat and I'm not organized, but you might be organized in a very emotional way. You like to have your emotions in order. They can be a little reserved, but this is a very caring sign, very helpful. This is a helpful moon that wants to see everyone do well. They want to, there's just something very caring and helpful about a Virgo moon. So who do they get along well with? Of course, the other earth energies, Capricorn and Taurus, they get along well. There's something practical about all the earth signs being down to earth, not being so quick to show emotion, slowing things down just a bit. So they do get along well together, although the trines can sometimes be a little boring after a while because the energies just flow. There's nothing to stop them. The signs that square Virgo are very interesting. We have Sagittarius and we have Gemini. Now, you get Gemini energy with Virgo energy, both ruled by Mercury. I think they understand each other pretty well, but they really go about showing their emotions in different ways. So it can be an interesting pairing, and actually, I like it. Okay, so what about Virgo with Sagittarius energy? I like this one too. Virgo is analytical, yet they're still curious. They like their ducks to be in a row. The only thing is, Sagittarius can be a little bit too spontaneous for the Virgo energy. But the squares still, they kind of work with this mutable moon energy because mutable energy is just more flexible. So, what about Pisces, our opposition sign? Virgo and Pisces can get along quite well. Virgo and Pisces are both compassionate and helpful signs. They are both very empathetic. And I think it gives them enough energy that is alike that they can mesh really well together. And then we have our sextile signs with Virgo. So on one side, we have Cancer, and Cancer energy is caring like Virgo energy. So they actually go pretty well together. And then Scorpio with Virgo. I love this one because Scorpio moons tend to gravitate toward that Virgo energy. I think it's because Scorpio can be a bit analytical itself, not in the same way as Virgo, but they actually get along pretty well. So let's look at our signs that are quincunx or 5 signs apart. And so we have Aries, Virgo, Aries. That can be really interesting. Any two moon signs can actually do well together if they try hard enough. But the spontaneity and the quickness of the emotions of Aries can sometimes be just a little bit too much for our Virgo. And then we have Aquarius. This one is really interesting because Aquarius is very out of the box. The Aquarius energy usually wants to be different, and they don't show their emotions as easily as a Virgo will. The Virgo may overanalyze what the Aquarius is feeling or thinking. Aquarius is not as much about the feelings, showing the emotions as Virgo, but it's also a combination that can work. And then we have our next door signs of Leo, and Libra and Virgo actually get along really well. I don't know why. The Libra moon really can get along with almost any sign because they love relationships and they thrive on that relationship energy and the harmony. And we're about to get to Libra in just a minute. And then the Leo moon, although may be a little bit emotional for the Virgo moon, That's also a combination that in the end can work. So let's look at the Libra moon. Who are they compatible with? And what is the Libra moon like? This is a moon that is diplomatic. It's a moon that is able to see all sides of a situation. This is a moon that really wants peace and harmony above all else. So they will do what it takes emotionally. They may not even show their emotions because they want to keep the peace. Now, do this moon sign enjoy relationships? Of course they do. It's Libra. That's what they're known for, right? But this moon sign does pretty well by itself, too. Their main thing, the thing that keeps them comfortable is balance and harmony. They want to get along with everyone. They may be a bit indecisive because they're trying to see every side of a situation. So that brings on this feeling of being a bit indecisive. Also, they make great mediators. And I think Libra is probably the sign that wants things to be fair more than any other sign. And they're also the sign that might get more emotional when they don't feel like something is fair, sometimes more for other people, even than for themselves. So, what signs did they get along with? Of course, the other air signs. We have our Aquarius and Gemini, and Libras definitely get along well with them. The intellectual energy, the air energy, both Aquarius may be a little aloof for Libra, but Libra can be sort of unemotional too sometimes. So Gemini and Libra and Aquarius and Libra get along well. And usually I think the air signs they don't get as bored with each other because a lot of their emotions are coming from their intellect. And that two, we have one that's ruled by Mercury, one that's ruled by Uranus, Aquarius. We'll get to that later. And then one that's ruled by Venus. But they still have that intellectual quality. So Libra gets along both well with Gemini and Aquarius. What about the signs that are in a square? It's interesting. With Cancer, Libra and Cancer can get along well together. Cancer is very nourishing, nurturing. Cancers are very caring and compassionate. And I think the moon sign of Libra really gets along well with all of the signs, even the ones that are in an aspect that's a little bit challenging, like the square. Now, the sign of Capricorn and Libra, they also get along well. The ruler of Capricorn is Saturn, and Saturn is at its joy in Libra. Actually, these two signs, although they're in a square to each other, get along quite well. What about the signs that are in the inconjunct or quincunx? We have both Pisces and we have Taurus. It's interesting because Pisces, Pisces and Libra are one of the combinations that I've seen over and over again in long-term relationships. For whatever reason, the Neptune ruled Pisces and the Venus ruled Libra just seem to connect, even though they have absolutely nothing in common. Now, I haven't seen it as much, but Taurus and Libra are both ruled by Venus. So there's this affinity between the two signs that even though we have fixed earth and we have cardinal air, they seem to get along. What about Aries? So I think Aries is a little bit too spontaneous for the Libra moon and maybe even a little overreactive and passionate at times. Although I know the Libra moon can be very passionate, I think the Aries Libra axis is one of the harder ones, maybe. But we do have Mars and Venus together. So if you're in a romantic relationship, the Libra moon and the Aries moon can actually work out quite well. So then we have our sextile signs to Libra. So we have Leo and Libra get along. The fire and the air mix well together. And then we have Sagittarius and Libra. And Sagittarius may sometimes be a little bit too freedom loving for the Libra moon, but actually at the end of the day, the two mix really well together. It's a Jupiter-Venus thing, and Jupiter ruling Sag and Venus ruling Libra. It actually works well. And then our next door signs, we have Virgo, and then we have Scorpio. All right, surprise. I've seen a lot of Scorpio moon, Libra moon relationships that actually work really well, at least at first, because I think the Scorpio moon can be a little bit secretive for the Libra moon. And then the Virgo moon and the Libra moon work really well together for the most part, even though the Virgo moon is a little bit practical for Libra. They like maybe a little bit more drama than Virgo does. But all in all, believe it or not, those two next door signs actually work pretty well together. So let's move to the Scorpio moon. So the Scorpio moon is very interesting because truly there is emotional depth to them that most of us don't see because they may keep their emotions a bit internalized. They can be a little bit secretive about how they feel, but at the end of the day, this is a very loyal moon sign. Scorpio is loyal and it's also very intuitive, and they may have you figured out intuitively what you're thinking or what you're feeling, and you don't even know it because they're a bit secretive. It's just the nature of Scorpio. Also, the Scorpio moon can be a bit ambitious, which is very interesting. Let's see how this plays out. We're going to go with the opposition first of Taurus. So the Scorpio Taurus axis actually gets along well together. And I'll tell you why. They can both be a bit possessive, the Scorpio moon and the Taurus moon, but there's a loyalty factor on this axis between these two signs that gives it some staying power. If you're in a relationship with someone that has a Taurus moon and you're a Scorpio moon, it's probably going to work out. Now, of course, the Scorpio moon gets along well with its fellow water signs. Also very intuitive are Pisces, the Pisces moon, and the Cancer moon. So the water signs, as I've said before, with all of the other elements, it's the same, the trine. They work well with each other. They understand the emotional flow that's going on. Although I do believe Scorpio can be maybe even deeper than Pisces and Cancer. But the combination of Cancer and Scorpio or Pisces and Scorpio actually work really well together. So then we have our sextiles. We have the Capricorn and Scorpio. This is actually a good one. I love this one because both of these moon signs can be a bit ambitious. When you put them together, it's like the power moon couple. When you put Scorpio with Capricorn, the energies actually work really well. And then on the other side, we have Scorpio with Virgo. And as I said in Virgo's segment, the practicality and the analytical ability of Virgo, of that moon, actually fascinates the Scorpio moon. Those two do well together. Now we have our quincunx, or our signs that are 150 degrees apart that have nothing, they know nothing about each other. They really don't understand each other. But first of all, we have Aries and Scorpio actually work. Don't know why. Maybe it's because both of them are a bit ambitious. Both moon signs are actually passionate because Scorpio once ruled by Mars, Aries ruled by Mars. This one actually works together pretty well, believe it or not. And then Scorpio also works with Gemini. And I think Scorpio energy is fascinated by Gemini energy and vice versa. I think it's fascinating to a Gemini how a Scorpio works emotionally, how I think they want to dig out all their secrets. So I really like that one as well. And then we have our next door signs of Libra. And I think the Libra moon really gets along well with all of the moon signs, some better than others, of course, but the Scorpio, Libra can work together. And then we have Scorpio and Sagittarius. This is a strange one because Sagittarius energy, I think, can be a little bit much for the Scorpio moon. But at the same time, there's a fascination there because they are so very different with that mutable fire and the fixed water. Something about Scorpio and Sagittarius moon actually work as well, even though I think they don't even know why it works. It just does. All right, let's go on to our Sagittarius moon. The Sagittarius moon is optimistic, it's adventurous, it's freedom loving. Don't box in a Sagittarius moon emotionally because they want out. They usually believe the best, and that can actually be a downfall for the Sagittarius moon. But they love adventure, they love to learn, philosophical, they like to understand the way the universe works. Emotionally, that's very fulfilling for them. How does Sagittarius moon get along with the other moon signs? Let's start with the other two fire signs, Aries. Aries and Sagittarius both love adventure, and so does Leo, actually. Leo, the Leo moon is so loving and loyal, but it can be a bit dramatic. But Sagittarius and Leo also get along well. The thing about the fire signs getting the moon signs in fire getting along so well together is wonderful, but they can get burned out a bit. And I think Sagittarius is a little bit freedom loving for the Leo moon, who really likes things to be a little bit more secure. Let's move on to our opposition. Both of these signs on the learning axis, their moons are emotionally fulfilled by learning, curiosity, knowing more about other people. And the Gemini moon can be as optimistic as the Sagittarius moon. So they mix really well together. Maybe not as much romantically, but especially in a work situation, I think that they can do well together, coming up with solutions and troubleshooting and brainstorming. What about our sextiles? So we have Libra on one side and we have Aquarius on the other side. The Aquarius moon and the Sagittarius moon actually do really well together because they both love their freedom. They're both pretty optimistic about things in life. And learning and innovation is very important to the Aquarius moon. And the optimism that comes from both moons, they honestly they fit really well together in a relationship. There's an understanding that both moon signs need a certain amount of freedom. So that works. With Libra, the combination works well, except Libra may not want to give the Sagittarius moon as much freedom as it wants to have. But since the Libra moon is very balanced and loving for the most part, very fair, this is a combination that can work out as well. So what about the signs that are making a challenging aspect or a square to the Sagittarius moon? Okay, so we have the Virgo moon and the Pisces moon. The Pisces moon and the Sagittarius moon actually do pretty well together because Pisces was once ruled by Jupiter before Neptune was discovered. So both of these signs being ruled by Jupiter can be optimistic together, and they also know how to cry together. Pisces can be just as aloof or freedom loving sometimes as the Sagittarius moon, but the Pisces moon can be a little bit more compassionate than the Sagittarius moon can. And then on the other hand, we have Virgo. Virgo and Sagittarius can get along together well, but Virgo is definitely more down to earth and probably not as optimistic as the Sagittarius moon. And that might be a little bit unsettling for the Virgo moon. And then we have our next door signs. So Scorpio moon and Sagittarius moon can do well. but it can be a little icky because Sagittarius is so optimistic, and sometimes the Scorpio moon really isn't. And that might get on the Scorpio moon's nerves just a bit. And then, of course, we have the Capricorn moon with the Sagittarius moon. And this is an interesting combination because, again, the Sagittarius can be a little too optimistic for the Capricorn moon as well. And the Capricorn moon can be a bit too practical for the Sag moon. I realized that I forgot to do the challenging squares for Scorpio. I want to do them now because they are most interesting. Scorpio is squaring Leo for one, and Scorpio is making the square to Aquarius for another. So the square to Leo is really interesting because both Leo and Scorpio, they can be a bit dramatic. Both of them can be a little ambitious, but both of those signs like loyalty and they're fixed. So if these signs get along well together, if these moon signs can actually, if Scorpio can deal with the drama of Leo and Leo can deal with the secrets of the Scorpio moon, because they're both so loyal, this can be a good match. Now, the Scorpio with Aquarius can also work, although it can be a little bit difficult because Scorpio is more emotional than the intellectual Aquarius moon. The Aquarius moon can be a bit aloof for them, and then the Scorpio moon doesn't, it really goes inward more. They're already very deep emotional, but they don't show their emotions often. This can be a tough one romantically, but you put these two together in a work situation, and I think that could work really well, even though it's challenging. The aspect itself is challenging. Okay, let's move on to the sign of Capricorn. Forgive me, Scorpios, for forgetting those two square aspects. The Capricorn moon can be very practical, also very ambitious. There is a strong sense of duty with the Capricorn moon. That is part of the emotional makeup, this strong sense that when they start a project, enter a relationship, that they need to complete it, they need to stick with it. They can be very private with their emotions and also very serious, not near as optimistic as our Sag moon, but the practical side, that ambitious side, people want to have that Capricorn moon on their side, especially in a work environment. So let's look at it a little bit further. So the opposition first, we have the Cancer moon. So Cancer moon and Capricorn moon understand each other. It's like there's the ambition of the Capricorn and the nurturing of the Cancer moon. And so you put the two together, and the Cancer moon feels taken care of, and the Capricorn moon feels taken care of in more of an emotional way. And sometimes this can really work, especially in a love relationship. Then let's look at our trines with the other earth signs. So we have Virgo and we have Taurus. And although all three of these moon signs work very differently emotionally, they're all grounded, practical, earthy, and that earth energy just works together very nicely, especially in work situations. When you put Capricorn with a Taurus or Capricorn with a Virgo, they can get a lot done. On the love field, I think this could get maybe a bit boring. I'm sorry, everybody, but because there's Capricorn doesn't show a lot of emotion, and the Virgo moon usually doesn't either. But maybe when they're up close and personal, what behind closed doors, things can get more emotional than we think they can. Okay, so the ones that are sextile to Capricorn, we have our Scorpio moon and we have our Pisces moon. And all of these combinations work well together. Scorpio and Capricorn, both rather ambitious, both have a tendency to be loyal, and that's what the Scorpio moon needs. And although the Scorpio moon can be a little bit too secretive for the Capricorn moon, carries a lot of respect for the Scorpio moon. And then with the Pisces moon, the compassion and the empathy that come with that Pisces moon, with the practical, ambitious side of the Capricorn moon, it just works. Although the Capricorn moon may not be emotional enough for the Pisces. And what do we have left? Okay, we have our quincunx or inconjunct signs to Capricorn, which are Leo and Gemini. These are so interesting, y'all, because Capricorn and Leo actually get along really well together. And I don't know why. I don't know because they are so incredibly different. The Leo moon could be a little dramatic for the Capricorn moon, and the Capricorn moon may be a little too down to earth and practical for the Leo moon, but there's a mutual respect there that really goes that it's really nice. And then with the Gemini moon, I think the Gemini moon is fascinated with the Capricorn moon, and Capricorn moon is also fascinated with the Gemini moon because they are so social. It helps bring out the social side of Capricorn, and it helps bring out the practical side of the Gemini moon. So I think these two can work as well. I just want to tell you, all the moon signs can work together if the rest of the aspects are good too. But these are more about what's easier, what's harder, what's more challenging. And if you would like me to do a compatibility reading for you, I would love to. My absolute favorite thing to do, one of them anyway. And you can find a link to book with me in the notes below. Okay, so we have our next door signs to Capricorn, which are Aquarius and Sagittarius. So Sagittarius moon and Capricorn moon are really different. The Sag moon may be a little bit too optimistic and adventurous for the Capricorn moon. The Capricorn moon may really pull back on that just a little bit. It's funny with these next door signs because although they might live in the same neighborhood or apartment building, they really don't know anything about each other. It can be challenging, but at the same time, sometimes the challenges can be the most interesting thing of all. And then we have Capricorn with Aquarius. Interestingly enough, before Uranus came along, Aquarius was ruled by Saturn. So they have this in common as Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. They can get on the same page pretty easily about things. I think that, again, the Capricorn moon may be a bit too practical for the Aquarius moon. The Aquarius moon really wants more freedom than the Capricorn moon, and actually so does the Sag moon with the Capricorn moon. Okay, so let's move on to our beautiful sign of Aquarius. So Aquarius moon is very interesting. And some people think they're very aloof and non-emotional. And this really isn't, although that might be what it looks like on the surface, but they're dreamers and they're thinkers and they're truly very innovative. And that's what feeds their emotional soul is the innovation and the creativity. It's a very creative moon sign. This is also a moon sign that's very humanitarian. They really tend to think about the group or everyone, but at the same time, they're very independent. This is a very independent, freedom-loving moon sign as well. Who do they get along with? Of course, they get along with their fellow air signs, Libra and Gemini. All of those signs have an intellectual quality about them that they think some with their emotions rather than actually feeling their emotions sometimes, but they can be very intellectual. And that is one thing that binds them together. I think that probably Aquarius does not run out of things to talk about with their fellow moon signs of Gemini and Libra. And it can be a really unusual mix. Probably Aquarius is the one least likely to really show their emotions, but Sometimes it's hard for a Gemini and Libra moon to show their emotions as well. A Libra wanting to keep things very peaceful, and Aquarius, on the other hand, the Aquarius moon may not care as much about the being peaceful as they want things to be very humanitarian and they want to be very independent in their thinking. Although this is not about Mercury, which is our thinking, but that is how they feel. That's what feeds their soul, is that creativity that comes from that innovation of Aquarius. What about the signs in a challenging aspect or a square to Aquarius? We have Scorpio on one hand. This is interesting because Scorpio being a little bit secretive, and although Scorpio feels their emotions so deeply, y'all, Aquarius, on the other hand, they don't show, it's not that they don't have emotions or it's just different with them. They show them in a very different way. They don't have so many open displays of emotion. Scorpio and Aquarius, because they're fixed, if there's an emotional disagreement, if there's an upset between the two, neither is likely to budge. So it can be a standoff emotionally with these two signs squaring each other. And then on the other side of things, we have Taurus. Okay, so Taurus with Aquarius is also an interesting one. Taurus, much more laid back, much more sensual, not as airy, intellectual as our Aquarius moon. But what I want to say about these moon signs, when they're in a fixed, when they're fixed, when you've got the Aquarius and you've got Taurus and Scorpio, emotional upsets are not settled very easy. Anger is an emotion, love is an emotion. We have so many emotions and so many. What makes the Aquarius comfortable and what makes Taurus comfortable are very different. So that's kind of a tough one, I think. But I do think it can be done. And then we have Aquarius in the opposition to Leo. And this one's a little bit tough. I think the Aquarius moon can be very loyal once it settles down. It values freedom and independence. It really does. And Leo, on the other hand, it's more loyal. It likes its loyal admirers. The sign of Leo likes to be admired. So there's some differences there, and especially with Aquarius being more humanitarian. Not that Leo's not humanitarian, but that's the signature trait of Aquarius. So that can go okay. It's not my favorite opposition, but it can also work. And then we have our signs that are sextile to Aquarius. We have Aries for one. And then on the other side, we have Sagittarius moon, Aquarius moon do really well together because both of them are fairly optimistic. Both of them love their freedom. Both of them really like the independence and the freedom to express their emotions, whatever they may be. And I really like that pairing. And then Aries, although Aries may be just a bit too spontaneous for Aquarius, Aquarius will usually go along with it. This can be a good pairing as well. And then we have the signs that are quincunx or that are making an inconjunct. Interesting, we have Cancer and we have Virgo. Okay, Virgo with the Sagittarius. This can work because Virgo is very analytical. Aquarius is very innovative. As long as Aquarius feels that freedom that they need, they can actually work pretty well with a Virgo moon. Although the Virgo moon may be a little bit more too much of a perfectionist for the Aquarius moon, because the Aquarius moon may not care about certain things that Virgo really does care about. So there can be a few issues going on there. And then we have the Cancer moon. And these two, it's so interesting to me because you have this very nurturing moon that's very sensitive. And then the Aquarius moon, it's not that they lack sensitivity. It's just that they show their emotions and feel their emotions in a different way. They're ruled by Uranus. I think the Aquarius moon can be a little bit too, I can't think of the right word, too out there maybe for the Cancer moon. And the Cancer moon, although I think Aquarius enjoys the nurturing the Cancer moon can give, but they don't like to be crowded or closed in at all. And then we have our next door signs. So we have Pisces on one side and Capricorn on the other side. Capricorn and Aquarius can actually get along pretty well, believe it or not, because Capricorn is not quick to show its emotions, and neither is Aquarius. And not that they don't have them, they're just not quick to be out with them. Although Capricorn can be a little bit practical for the Aquarius moon. It's a little bit more freedom loving and innovative. Although I do think both of those moon signs do like their independence. So it's a match that could work. And then the Pisces moon with the Aquarius moon. The Pisces moon is very empathetic. It's very caring. And I think the Aquarius moon really enjoys that. Both of these moon signs can be quite intuitive. Yes, Aquarius can be very intuitive. Maybe not in the same way as Cancer or the other water signs, but it can be because it's ruled by Uranus. It gets those quick downloads about people, about situations. So I think with these two moon signs together, they might want to go different directions when it comes to adventure or things like that. But emotionally, I do think that they can get along together. Maybe not as well as the other signs with Aquarius, but Pisces, Aquarius could work. All right, and now we're on to our last moon sign, our lovely Pisces moon. Our Pisces moon is caring, they're sensitive, they're creative, they're dreamers, they're adaptable, they're a mutable water sign. The Pisces moon is really special because they are sensitive and they really do feel the feelings of others fairly easily. They're very intuitive, and sometimes that empathy is a lot for them. Emotionally, they may cry more than the other moon signs or openly show their emotions because they feel things so easily. They really are sensitive to the world around them, to the ones they love. And there is an intuitive quality to the Pisces moon that is unique only to Pisces, where they feel more than they use their intellect or no, I'm not saying you're not intellectual, Pisces moon. I'm just saying that you really feel things in a deep way. Different than Scorpio, because even though Scorpio feels things very deeply, they don't always show what they're feeling. And Pisces, most of the time, doesn't have a problem with that. So, who are they compatible with? Let's start with Scorpio and Cancer, the fellow water signs. That intuitive, caring ability is within all of those water signs. That water element truly brings them together. There is a compassion and a caring between Pisces and Cancer that is a match. They're really a good match together, except maybe they're both a bit too intuitive and sensitive to things. If you can be too sensitive or intuitive, I don't know. But I think Pisces and Cancer is a good match, and also Pisces and Scorpio, because Pisces, the Pisces moon, will understand that Scorpio moon almost unlike any other of the moon signs will. So these are really good matches for our Pisces moon. What about our sign in opposition to Pisces, Virgo? Both signs very caring, but in a little bit different ways, because for Virgo, it's more practical, more earthy, more analytical, more organizational, organized. Pisces, not so organized, even in their emotions and their thoughts. They're really not. They are so sensitive that They just take in those emotions as they come, like water. But Virgo and Pisces can get along quite well together. It's just interesting the way they work in very different ways. As you have the water angel or the air angel, Pisces, our water angel, or in our earth angel, Virgo. Very different ways of holding intuition and caring for other people. But at the same time, there is a sensitivity with both signs. So this is actually a fairly good match for the opposition. Now, the other two signs that are in a challenging aspect or a square, these two signs square them, is Sagittarius squares Pisces on one side and Gemini on the other side. Sagittarius is not as emotional as Pisces. Pisces is much more sensitive, although they were both once ruled by Jupiter. So Pisces was once ruled by Jupiter. Now it's ruled by Neptune and Jupiter. And then Sagittarius being ruled by Jupiter. There isn't just shared optimism and expansive outlook between both of those sides. They both get it that way. But I think the Pisces moon can sometimes be a little bit too showy with their emotions or too sensitive for the Sagittarius moon. Or maybe the Sagittarius moon is a little insensitive to the Pisces moon. Now, Gemini, on the other hand, works a little bit differently because of that innate curiosity that's in the Gemini moon. They'll try to dig down deeper and find out from Pisces, why are you so emotional? Why are you feeling like this? They'll dig deeper to try to get to those feelings. Maybe the Gemini moon with the Pisces moon could work just a little bit better than with the Sag moon. But all of these signs are mutable. Sag, Gemini, and of course our Pisces moon. So they're more adaptable than some of the other moon signs. Therefore, these are combinations that could work. Now, our signs that are sextile to Pisces, we have Capricorn on one side and Taurus on the other side. And the earth signs and the water signs tend to get along well together. I think a Capricorn might find Pisces a little too sensitive sometime, and Pisces might find the Capricorn moon maybe a little too insensitive sometimes. And then I think the Taurus and Pisces combination works really well because there's a sensuality to Taurus that I think the Pisces moon really appreciates. And I think the Taurus, as grounded as Taurus is, really loves the creativity, the ability to be adaptable, and the sensitivity of the Pisces moon. So it can be a really nice combination. And then we have our next door signs. So first, we have Aquarius next door to Pisces. So these moon signs are pretty different because Pisces is really affected by their environment. It's like they see a sad movie or they see something sad happening around them, and it's almost like their emotions enmesh with what's going on around them. They are that sensitive sometimes. And Aquarius really isn't like that at all. Seriously, these signs are very different. But I do think that the Aquarius moon can really appreciate the sensitive side of the Pisces moon and also the intuitive side. And at the end of the day, they could get along, but I think this is somewhat of a tough one. So leave me your comments, y'all. Tell me what moon signs you get along with best and in what capacity. Is it romance? Is it your son, your daughter, your parents, your friends, your coworkers? I'd really like to hear your comments about what moon sign you get along with the best. Then on the other side, we have Aries. Now, you cannot get much difference than the Pisces moon and the Aries moon, truly. This could work because the Aries moon might really appreciate the compassion the Pisces moon can show. And then the way that Aries can be so spontaneous and adventurous, Pisces might enjoy that. But really and truly, as far as differences go, these two are there's nothing in common between these two moon signs. It might get on Aries nerves that Pisces doesn't move fast enough, and it might get on Pisces nerves that Aries wants to move too quickly. That's an interesting one. You'll have to tell me about that one if you have someone in your life when you're a Pisces moon and you're with an Aries moon combination. I hope you've enjoyed the moon compatibility video. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate that. And see you soon. Bye from Florida.